Welcome friends to Farm Fresh Designs 59. In today's video, I'm doing a special video in collaboration with Kendra from Late Night Creations. So let's get started. So this is just a board that I had out of my stash, and it's pretty large, and I painted the entire piece with just one coat of Waverly Black ink chalk paint. And this is the Dixie Belle Crackle finish. And remember, when you put it on, make sure you always put it on in the same direction. And when it dries, it's going to be sort of shiny, but just know that the crackle finish is going to turn out beautiful. So I want to give a special shout out to Kendra with Late Night Creations. We decided about a month ago that we would do this collaboration with two new products by Redesign with Prima. And so both of us will be doing different projects and just taking our own spin on the different products. So I'm going to make sure to link her video in the description box below and a link to her channel. So make sure to go and watch the video and then like her channel and follow her channel. She's got some wonderful projects in previous videos, and she is the queen of woodworking. So once it all sets up, then what I actually do is I'll let it set for just a little bit, and then I put a heat gun to it. Because if you've watched my videos before, you know that I am very impatient. But this time I was kind of excited because it worked out for me. So when your crackle finish dries, then you go and you put the coat on top of that and make sure that you're brushing it in the same direction as you did the crackle finish. But because I had already applied heat to that crackle finish, it started cracking immediately. And the heavier that you put on the crackle finish, the bigger gaps you're going to find. Now this rice paper is from Decoupage Central, and I'll make sure to share the link in the description box below. And this is one of her new papers, and I love it. So I put it on with Pen Art Decoupage Varnish and Glue. So I'm just going to go ahead and let you know that I did edit these a little bit extra, because if you can tell, I'm a little bit sick right now. So I'm trying to save my voice just to get through the video. But because Kendra and I had already planned this, I've worked really hard today to save my voice. So I'm using some different IOD molds. And this is the IOD Olive Crest mold. And I use DOS air dry clay. I put cornstarch in my mold, and I put that clay in, press it down with my thumb, and then just smooth over it with an old gift card or credit card. Now I'm going to work my way all around this design and this rice paper. And I really didn't have a plan in the beginning, so I went on and just made a lot of the different molds and kind of laid them out as I went. And then by that point, they had already dried just a little bit, but they still went on really well. Now this little piece is actually from the IOD Classic Elements, and it's just part of a mold, and I just wanted the little swirly part. So I used some different pieces up at the top and the bottom and at the top corners. Now this is one of the new stamps by Redesign with Prima, and it's just called Easter. And it goes so appropriately with this particular piece of decoupage paper. So I stamp it up with IOD black ink. And I'm just going around those edges because I know there's going to be a little bit of bleed over from the stamp. And I didn't want to have to try to cover that up later, because normally I would just paint over it. But because of the crackle finish, I wanted to make sure that I got it right the first time. So make sure you watch the final reveal to see the placement of all the different stamps that went around this piece of decoupage paper. So I'll lay it straight down, keep one finger still or keep one hand still, and just move around with my fingers. And then when I get ready to pull it up, I pull it straight up. And it says, "He is risen." I love it. So what I like to do is to go ahead and paint my molds when they're still slightly damp. I don't like to wait until they're dry. But I use a very, very soft rounded bristle brush, and I just dab on the paint, and then that prevents it from cracking. So I just take my time and work my way all around, and then I use a tiny little skinny brush to go around the edges, because I also don't want to paint onto that rice paper. So I did that at night, and then the next morning I got up, and this is the Dixie Belle Voodoo Gel Stain in Natural. And I spread it all over that mold, and I'm going to put it around the edges, and then I'm just going to wipe it back with a baby wipe, and what that does is it just sinks that gel stain into the crevices, and it brings out that detail. But I really am liking this particular shade of Voodoo Gel Stain because I think it gives just enough stain to it, to provide that definition, but it doesn't make it quite so dark. Now, one of the things that I did was I decided to paint the back with this rice paper because in the beginning I was just going to keep the wood plain black. But when I did, I actually tore like a little hole in it, and I was just sick. So what I did was that natural gel stain, I just slightly brushed it over the rice paper, trying to cover up that little hole that I created. And so here's the finished product. So here's all the different molds that I used. I used some of the larger parentheses and some of the smaller parentheses. And I just used different pieces from just 2 different molds this time, which I know y'all will find that hard to believe because I like to use a lot of molds. But I wanted to make sure to share this rice paper before Easter comes around, because this is the reason for Easter. He is risen. He is not on the cross. He is not on the grave. He is alive. And that is the real reason for Easter. So my next piece is just an old cigar box. I don't know if you remember, but last summer I went to an estate sale and I bought a lot of them. And I like them because they make really narrow shadow boxes. And I painted it with Rust-Oleum chiffon cream. Now this is a piece of decoupage paper, and I believe it's from Reba Rose Creations. I've had this for quite some time, and I really like it because of the sepia tones in the rabbits. So I just, used my water pen to separate what I wanted to put inside the box. And then I tore off some more down at the bottom so it would fit really well. Now this is the mold by Redesign with Prima, and it's the Easter egg mold. So I'm going to be putting 3 different eggs down at the bottom. And then I'd put 2 medium size and then a little bit larger one just laying on top of that. Now, this particular mold is by Redesign with Prima, and it's called Garland and Detail. And I just make a lot of these different little molds. And once again, I use the DOS air dry clay with the cornstarch and then just smooth it out with the credit card. I go all around the edge of that decoupage paper. So now what I'm doing is I want to go around the edge of that box, and there is a stamp in the stamp set. It's got all these cute little eggs, but I'm going to go around the outside edge, and there's 3 rows of eggs. So I just tape off 2 rows, and then when I get ready to stamp, I pull that painter's tape up. Now, this is just a little popsicle stick. It's one of the wide popsicle sticks. And I'm going to stamp it with one of the little stamps that just says Happy Easter. Now, another part of the stamp, I'm just using one of the corners of one of the stamps, and it's just a little floral design, and I just put that on the corners. Now, I'm just going to glue it up to the top. And one of the things I forgot to mention is that I use the Voodoo Gel Stain on this one as well, and it's the natural. And once again, I'm trying to measure because I'm trying to make sure it's in the center. And this is the final project, and it's just one of those great pieces that you can keep out. And if you didn't want it to be distinguished necessarily as a Easter sign, you could just not put the little sign up at the top and maybe not put the eggs on it. If you just want something for the spring, but it's those great sepia tones. But I really like it. I think it's really sweet. Now my next project is just a piece of scrap wood, and I painted it with Dixie Belle Rebel Yellow. Now, once I got it put on, it was a little bit dark, so I dry brushed it with white, Rust-Oleum Chiffon Cream Paint. So I'm going to put a little piece of rice paper from Decoupage Central on it. But before I do, I'm going to use the little stamp in the stamp set that's a little rabbit. And I'm going to put 3 down the side of one edge of that piece of wood before I add my decoupage paper to it. Now, the reason I did that is because in Kendra's video, when she showed me what she was doing, I didn't realize she was using a piece of scrapbook paper. I thought she'd stamped this whole little background of a piece that she did. So I thought, oh, I can do that too. And then after we talked later, it turned out that it was a piece of scrapbook paper, and I got kind of tickled at myself. So once again, I'm using Pen Art Decoupage Varnish and Glue to put it all down. And I've somewhat decided what I'm going to do down at the bottom. Now, I don't paint the back of this decoupage paper because it's got some pretty dark colors in it, and I don't think that yellow is going to bleed through it all. Now, this piece of rice paper is kind of wonky because I'd used it for different things, so I need to outline it. Now, what I'm showing you now is some trim that I got from burlapfabric.com, and it's beautiful. And they reached out to me, and they are giving my viewers $5 off of a $5 or more purchase. And I'm going to share that code in the description box below. And it's a bargain because on this roll, there's 10 yards of it. So it's a really good buy for your bucks. And so make sure to go to that link below and look at all the beautiful stuff they have. And you can get $5 off of a $5 or more purchase. So initially, what I was going to do was I was just going to put some of that ribbon on either side. And this is just some fabric glue that I'm using, and it dries clear. And then I just take that trim. It's a crochet trim, and I make it just long enough to where it will wrap around and go to the back. So, yes, at this point, I did not finish off the back. I go back and I do that later. But what I like to do in situations like this is maybe cover it with a piece of felt. But I go on either side and put that. Well, then I realized that the bottom was just still a little bit wonky. So I decided to put a piece up at the top and the bottom to finish it off. And then once again, down at the bottom, I used that same Happy Easter stamp. And it's just a sweet little sign that you can put on a shelf, or you can give away to a friend. Or if you're going to make an Easter basket for an adult, it's just a sweet little sign that you can stick in their Easter basket. So what do you think? And that crochet trim is so pretty. And I'm so thankful that they reached out to me. And I've got some more of their products coming up soon. So on my last project today, this is just a little piece that I bought off of Amazon, and I painted it with Waverly Antique Wax, and then I didn't like it, so I painted it with Rust-Oleum Chiffon Cream. And then this is just a piece of an old hymnal, and it's called At the Cross. And I just tore off around the edges so that it would fit onto this little plaque really easy. Now, some people, it really concerns them that when you use different parts of a book But I see it as this. It is just another way to share the gospel with other people and to use that paper, because sometimes just those words alone are very comforting. So now the stamp that I'm going to use is beautiful. It is a cross stamp. But one of the things you might not see very well is on the side, there's some wording on it, and the wording says, Hallelujah, which I just think is wonderful. Now, I did make sure that that decoupage was good and dry before I tried to stamp it. And then I, once again, used that Voodoo Gel Stain in the natural. And one of the things I didn't show you was I put that lock from the IOD Lock and Key down at the bottom, painted it with the Rust-Oleum Chiffon Cream. And then I took a key from that same mold and I wrapped it around with some twine, because when we unlock our heart to God, then we are blessed so many ways. And so I just thought, through the cross, Jesus unlocked that way for us to live with him in eternity. So friends, we are at the end of the video. I apologize for my crabby voice. It was been so bad today that I didn't even get to read with my granddaughters, because it's really hard to not cough a lot. But I'm going to get better. But make sure today, in the comments below, let me know what is your favorite. And also, please don't forget, when this video is over, make sure you go to Kendra's channel and watch her video. She's got some precious little projects going, and she uses a lot more color than I do on her video. And then once you watch her channel, of course, you're going to fall in love with her. So make sure that you follow her as well. Currently, when you're watching this video, she's on a cruise. So I know she's having a good time. So if you're not a member of my channel, I'd love it if you would subscribe to my channel. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit the thumbs up button. And I hope you have a wonderful day.